Hi guys, and welcome to video 5 of module 1. So in the previous video we looked at how we can create an object that follows, or a particle that follows a path using Tyflow, and that was for the star geometry example. In this video we're going to look at how we can use this spline path that I've made previously and create particles, these little leaves here, that collide with solid geometry. So picking up from where we left off, in the same way that we use a star, we have the position icon surface modifier, the speed along icon arrow modifier, the shape modifier, the physics shape modifier, and the send out modifier connecting to our slow path follow modifiers. I've also added an addition wind modifier, which we'll go through in the next video. The main part of this video that's going to create this collision with solid geometry, allowing it to come out the other side in a different state, ideally broken, is the physics collision modifier. So we find that in our modifier panel here, and essentially all we did was just drag this up here and place it underneath the path follow. So in order to make this fracture after it exits from this solid geometry, if we look at what it's currently doing, the leaves, these little leaves that I've selected, are currently colliding with the wall, if you want to call it a wall, and then staying there. So that's a collision, which is great, but we want this to kind of go through the collision. We want this to continue on through the square and become something else afterwards. So to allow this to kind of break after it intersects with this solid geometry, we're going to add the Voronoi fracture modifier. So we're going to left mouse click and drag this into our screen here. And now we're going to connect these two events together. So since we've applied this fracture modifier, we're going to go to our display and choose our geometry. So now let's see what happens on the other side of this. And we can see what's going on clearly in this window here too. So let's go, we'll press play. So our leaves are coming here and then they're fracturing at the end. So they're coming out the other side and they are breaking up into smaller pieces, which is what we wanted to happen. Now what we're going to do is also, once these fracture, we want the wind modifier, or the tie wind button here, the symbol, to blow the rest of this debris away so that it continues on and kind of is like a little sparkly kind of dust at the end of this fracture, which could look quite ambient. So we're going to add the force modifier to this new event, same as what we've done here in event number 2, to allow for the debris left behind from the collision to eventually blow away in the wind. So if we go along here and select the force modifier, this one here, left mouse click and drag that into place, like so. We're going to pick and we're going to select the wind modifier I previously placed in here to blow the dust away. So as we can see here, this debris from the collision is now floating away in small little particles, and we can change the way that looks as well by adjusting the settings here for the force. But if we had to play that, it actually looks pretty fantastic in terms of a visual effect. Press play and they start to fly away. So you can see they're flying away quite quickly. What we might do, quite a quick blowing away. So let's change that around. Let's add some gravity, more gravity to this. It's going a little bit too high up. Let's try something like 20. So playing around with these settings, we can kind of customize the wind effect. What I'm trying to do is to get more of a dispersed wind effect for this. Like that is a lot better, but we might try something like 8 for gravity. I want it to kind of go straight across. Yep, so we can see up here, we're going straight across, which is fantastic. Now let's try changing it to turbulent wind and see how that affects things. Curl wind changes the settings slightly. If we scroll all the way down, we can change the effect of the velocity. So we might change it so that it's only affecting the magnitude. We can change it so it only affects the direction. So that ends up happening there. If we change the magnitude, we can change how this is affected. So we might go 0 for the multiplier. And if we go up now and change our gravity, it might actually end up being exactly what we're after. So this is what we're after. What we were after was some kind of dispersion effect after it collides. So it's as though they're blowing in the wind. And now we can even change things like the strength of the wind. The strength, like so. We can change the frequency. Something like this. That's a little more what we were aiming for, like so. So if we close this now, we can do some pretty cool things. We can now hide the box. Let's hide our icon. We'll hide our line. We'll hide our wind as well. And let's see what this looks like. If we hit play, we have some pretty fantastic little leaves blowing in the wind. So we'll just let this load the whole way so that we can get the full animation effect. And what we might do is stop the animation at around 200 frames. So we'll go to our time frame kind of settings, customize. And in our toolbar section, let's scroll down in alphabetical order to the letter T to grab our time frame toolbar option. So that's our time configuration. And we'll pop that into here. And now let's click on this and we'll change the amount of keyframes to 200 keyframes. Okay. So now we have this as our animation. And it flows very nicely and has a really natural physics to it, as though wind is in fact blowing this away. So this is how we use the physics collision modifier. And let's just open up the Tyflow editor so we can just reflect on what we've done. So this is how we use the physics collision modifier in one of our events to connect to a future event of the Voronoi fracture, and then applying a Ty wind modifier to this to then blow away the debris from our leaves. And what we have is a really beautiful, pretty cinematic animation, which you might recognize from the introduction of these videos. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. In the next video, we'll be looking at how we can render our animations for use in other media. I'll see you guys there.